Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Yak Gadget. For all your fine quality kayak fishing needs, go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, coolers, and lighting. Go to pelican.com. And the 153 Bait Company. For all your hard, soft plastic bait needs, go to the 153anglers.com. Now let's talk about some awesome products. What's up? The final cast. I'm Brad.
What's up, Brad?
I
didn't think you were going to bring us in there. We're just going to sit backstage for the episode.
I know. It's been a couple weeks. Good to be back.
Dude, I ran it last week by myself, and it wasn't too bad, but I ended up forgetting to put the clothes in there. And I was like, hey, Brian, I think I forgot to do the clothes, and I didn't take everybody out at the beginning or take the other guy out. And so it was a kind of a little bit of a mess, but it wasn't too bad. So
it's all good. I messed up this week, so it's all good. But so, yeah, how's everything been?
Same old, man. Just working.
Okay.
Try to get the kids out in the kayak this weekend, but we actually took a ride over to the GMR to put eyes on it first and realized it was a little high. They had the dam area locked off, so
yeah.
I mean, we would have been all right. It wasn't like real bad, and the area's not hard to navigate, but it is what it is, and they were kind of misbehaving. So
yeah, I was bummed. I wasn't able to get on the river much either. So
yeah,
it's whatever. Well, we got a cool episode for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about the NRS inflatables, the Star, Rival, Challenger, and the Pike, I think. So I met Blake Longworth last week when we met up at Loveland Canoe and Kayak. So we're bringing him on the show to talk about the products. Welcome to the show, man.
Hooday! Oh, I thought we were. I'm sorry. I thought we were on my football podcast. This is the fishing one.
You got a football podcast?
I mean, I'll start one if I get to talk trash about the Bengals beating the Steelers.
God, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, the Reds smacked up on the Pirates today. I'm sorry, we can't talk about sports.
That's not even like.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Pirates suck.
If only hockey was going on and the Blue Jackets were beating the Pens, and then we could just keep rubbing Brad's face into it.
So it'd be so lovely.
That never happens either. So it's like.
And then the whole time we're just making you watch college football with your eyes taped open. Because he doesn't like college football. So
what's that like about? All right, I'm not going to get into this. Thanks for having me, guys. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Heck yeah. You want to start off letting the listeners know a little bit about yourself and what you do for NRS?
Oh, I don't think they want to hear too much about me. But I am the Northeast and Upper Midwest wholesale account manager for NRS, which is just a really long way to say that I'm a sales rep. I have been with NRS for almost 16 years now. My first job with the company was pushing a cart in the warehouse and putting products in the bin to get shipped out. All these years later, I've made it all the way up to lower level wholesale sales representation. So it's been a great ride. No, man, it's great. We love NRS. NRS is a great company. You guys may or may not know this, but NRS is actually 100% employee owned. Mm-hmm. So not only do you have a sales rep from the company on your podcast today, you're actually speaking with an owner of NRS tonight. So it's, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's cool.
We're blessed.
How does that work though?
What's that?
100% employee owned. How does that work?
Oh yeah, okay. So we're an organization. It's called an ESOP, so an employee stock option program. So our founder Bill Parks, he founded the company in 1972 with $2,000 in his garage, just trying to get paddling equipment out to his friends. But a few years back in 2014, Bill was kind of trying to figure out his exit strategy. He's getting kind of older. It was really NRS is the second career for him. He was a professor of economics and finance at the University of Oregon when he founded the company, and then later went to the University of Idaho, and that's how the company came to Moscow, Idaho. But yeah, rather than selling to private equity or another company, Bill decided to actually sell the company to the employees. So we founded the ESOP as a legal entity and borrowed money from the bank and actually bought the company from Bill. So every share that's held in the company now is held by an employee. You know, depending on how long you've been there and all that kind of stuff, you get more or less shares. But yeah, there's nobody that owns shares of NRS that is not an employee of the company.
That's cool.
It's awesome. It gives us all like a lot of pride and ownership, and
yeah,
we've always had a great culture at NRS. I mean, it's an amazing place to work, but this just adds so much more to it, so much more depth.
Yeah. I mean, you see that kind of a hint of it in some corporations where they have like a profit sharing or something to that effect, or stock options, but it tends to be on the really extremely light side. And it's cool that you guys have made it like 100% like that, because, NRS is a great company. We've all, especially for the kayak anglers, we've been familiar with them for quite some time. And, I've always been a huge fan of their products and what they stood for. And, that's just kind of icing on the cake, because it kind of gives those employees that extra push to really work hard, really be proud, like you said, be proud of the company, be proud of what they do, and have pride in, even as a simple job as, order picking, you know what I mean? Because it's just going to benefit them more to make the company as successful as possible. Like it's real easy to see those companies where you get your butt kicked all day, and it's like, oh, we have bonuses, or this or that, but it's like really light, and it's, it just doesn't necessarily translate well a lot of times in your workforce. So I tip my hat to the NRS, because it's definitely a great way of looking at it. I mean, obviously NRS isn't like this huge corporation, but you guys are a big part of the paddling community. I mean, there's very, very little people, very few people that don't know what NRS is.
Yeah.
So keep it up, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yes, that's we are super proud of the company, and it's funny, you say, not many people don't know NRS, and I think in paddle sports, if you came from the kayaking world, the rafting world, you've been getting on the water with human powered recreation for a long time. That's absolutely true. And, NRS is a big player in paddle sports. And it's been funny as we've kind of started getting into fishing the last 10, 15 years, really the last 10 years, and in earnest the last kind of 8. Boy, we are a tiny company when it comes to fishing.
Yeah.
As far as life jackets and inflatable watercraft go, sure, we're one of the big names. You go to ICAST, go to a big fishing show, and it's like, now who are you guys again? This
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. We used to go to, even we used to go to OR. It was kind of fun because like we kind of get big for our britches, and I don't know why I would ever feel that way. My first desk at the company was, some piece of particle board that was put together in the back of the warehouse. Like we didn't have a real sales floor. It was just like this carpeted area in the back. Now we have a big fancy headquarters that I've never once been to, but it looks real nice in the pictures. I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to going there someday when the pandemic is over. But yeah, it's been a great company to work for. And I tell you, pride in your work has been an incredible thing this year, because I tell you, as a salesperson, I really couldn't do anything wrong throughout the last 18, 24 months. Kayaks have been selling themselves, life jackets have been selling themselves, all the things that go along with it. It's not been hard to sell outdoor recreation. What has been a huge challenge has been our teams in the warehouse, packing orders, shipping out orders, working those long hours, doing the returns and the repairs, and like trying to, our people that are on the back end of our sales team trying to move product around and, do fulfillment. Like, oh my God, I don't think if we had an ESOP that we would have been able to keep, half of our employees. It's just, It's been a tough road to hoe for a lot of people. And I'm not really one of those people, but man, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have a company right now.
Yeah.
So shout out to all my other NRS brothers and sisters out there. We love you guys. You guys are doing great.
Yeah, it's been a crazy time for everybody across the whole industry. Even in the construction industry, I do remodeling work, and it's ridiculous right now.
Right, a pickup bed full of lumber, you can retire on that now. It's like there's no such thing as scrap wood anymore.
Yeah,
it is stuff that's worth its weight.
Heck, cabinet makers, they're like 3 months behind. So like all of our jobs, we have like 5 or 6 unfinished jobs right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a wild time. So we feel really blessed to be on this side of it, and working for a company that's taking care of its employees. We didn't had to let anybody go through the early days of the pandemic, and then obviously we've been trying to do everything we can just to keep up with the business. So it's we feel very, very fortunate.
That's awesome. Well, you want to start getting into the inflatables?
Absolutely, I love talking about inflatable watercraft. We at NRS, I don't know if we're the king of much, but I think we have to be up there in the running for king of inflatable watercraft. And I love talking about them. So, Brad, you just got a rival, right?
Yep.
How are you liking it?
I like it a lot. I've been out on it 3 times. I haven't even put the skeg on yet, by the way. I've just been.
Well, you've just been on the Little Miami, right?
Great Miami.
You've been on the Great Miami, okay?
Yeah, but. Yeah, I've been impressed with it stability-wise, and I think paddle's awesome. Like I told you, I was going down through riffles, and then one slight paddle stroke, I was turned 180 degrees, and I made this perfect cast into the perfect spot with a topwater lure, and the fish just slammed it right when it hit the water. I was like, I could never do that again if I tried. But it made me feel like a pro. I was like, yeah, that was awesome.
I know that feeling. I'm a terrible angler, so I don't know it from a fishing perspective. But I was coaching my 4-year-old daughter's soccer practice earlier tonight, and I kicked it into the goal from a corner kick. I bent it like Beckham, and I was like 10 more tries, 10 misses, guaranteed, no doubt. So that's the closest I have for that. Yeah, the inflatables are great, right? Don't get me wrong. I love a big plastic fishing kayak, right? Pick your manufacturer. I've enjoyed paddling or pedaling or ring. All of them. I've enjoyed them. But there's something about an inflatable, right? Like you're not worried about sliding it over the wrong kind of a rock. It's light, it's easy to move. You can get it in and out like on top of your car or roll it up. For us, I think the rival, the Challenger, are these great watercraft for getting on any kind of water. But I think what we really love about them coming as a Northwest company is kind of this idea of like adventure angling. The ability to get to a put-in that you absolutely cannot get to with your truck and trailer. Hiking into a remote stream or lake to fish. That kind of stuff is what really gets us excited. But yeah, for that everyday angler, even if they don't want to do that, the idea that I can roll this thing up and check it on a plane and travel somewhere and go on a fishing trip, we love them. So the rival, it's interesting. We called it an inflatable sit on top. I don't know what makes it more of a sit on top than a regular inflatable kayak. I've never had a deck on an inflatable kayak before, but it's kind of this cool, hybrid with that drop stitch floor. I don't know if you've had the chance yet, but have you been able to stand up and cast on that boat?
Oh yeah.
I don't think a lot of people expect that kind of stability out of an inflatable.
Oh, I didn't. I thought there'd be some give to it, but it's just like standing on a paddleboard.
Yeah, the drop stitch is tremendous.
Yeah, and that was one thing I was going to bring up. I'll have to pull up the.
Oh, Challengers. I mean, that's just a smaller one than the Rival. It's the same
Right.
idea there.
Yeah, I'm gonna find the drop stitch page and I'm gonna bring it up because I do want to talk about that. But yeah, if you want to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, really, like the anatomy of the Rival and the Challenger are essentially the same, right? You're just talking about a different length between the boats. So the Rival is 12 feet 6 inches long, and the Challenger, you get that in the sure I'd say it right, 10 feet 8 inches. And so the anatomy is basically the same. You've got a drop stitch floor that goes down the middle of the boat, and then 2 side tubes that you can also inflate and you need to inflate and give you additional stability. You don't really need the buoyancy that they provide, but really what it does is gives you that side to side stability when you're in the boat. So you're never worried about, leaning a little bit too far out of the boat and having it tip over on you. They're really hard to flip, especially in anything, other than, something below class 3 whitewater.
Right. I was going to mention that too. Like, I don't feel unsafe on that thing at all. I'd be surprised if that thing like completely does a flip,
No, I think unless you dragged it over on top of you falling out, you're going to fall out of the boat and it's going to right itself and, continue on downstream for sure.
Yeah.
Which is great because it's self-rescue super easy. You just literally just climb back onto it.
Yeah, it's light enough to where you can just flip it over real quick if it does.
Oh man, or literally like swim with it to shore if you're in deep water. You can just literally just swim and just drag it behind you. There's not the Rival's the big one. I think it comes in at like a whopping 31 pounds. And much like the person that asked me this question at a trade show one time, it weighs the exact same inflated as it does deflated.
Oh, okay.
That was a real question I had. She said, how much does it weigh? I said, 31 pounds. And she said, well, how much is it inflated? I was like, well, it's full of air.
still 31.
I didn't fill it up with sand. That would be,
or you're like, or helium, it just start floating away.
That would be awesome. If actually, I think NRS should really change to airship construction. That would be way more fun. But yeah, so we're looking at a cross section of drop stitch here, and that's exactly what it is. It's kind of hard to see. That looks more like you've taken a slice of cheese.
Yeah.
But what you're seeing there is a majillion threads that connect the top layer of fabric with the bottom layer of fabric. So like anything else you've ever inflated in your life, if you did not have that drop stitch, if you just didn't have those threads holding those 2 layers flat and a uniform distance from one another, it would just turn into a hot dog, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So drop stitch it does give us the ability to go much higher pressure because we're holding our layers of fabric together. But more importantly, it's what allows us to start to shape these things into flat shapes, as opposed to, every inflatable before drop stitch was the exact same construction. It was a round tube, and then maybe you did an I-beam floor to kind of give you small hot dogs to sit on top of.
Mm-hmm.
And with drop stitch, we were really able to start making boats that looked a lot different than any inflatable we'd seen before. It was cool. The first one we made was one called the Gig Bob, which had the silliest name, but was a cool little personal rowing boat. Super fun. You could take the bottom pontoons off and turn it into a kick boat if you wanted to fish that way. The Gig Bob was a lot of fun. We still have it. It's still around.
So basically, the drop stitch is creating that rigidness in between the layers, and it helps hold the form instead of the the top layer. Say you're standing on it, it's not going to allow it to concave in whatsoever.
Right.
It's going to might have a little press to it, but it's going to still hold its shape, as opposed to, like you said, you get on something that's just just
a pool toy.
Yeah, just a pool toy. The first thing you always laugh about is you see people jump on those things and they just fold around them. So
right, and so that's what drop stitch does. 2 things. One, it gives us the shape, but it allows us to inflate it to a pressure that can withstand our weight.
Right.
So that's the big thing too, right? So you talk about a raft, which we've been fishing out of for a long time. Fly fishing out west out of rafts is very common. The tubes of a raft are usually between 2.5, 3 psi. On an inflatable stand-up paddleboard, NRS boards are rated to a 20 psi. Now you don't need to do that with the rival or the challenger because you have those side tubes and you're not, you have extra support there. So we tell people to do the floor on the challenger, the rival, to about 8 psi. 8 to 10 is going to be more than enough. And then the side tubes are also going to be at that 2.5, 3 range.
Yeah. So talking about the floor here, Josh, this floor, even like at the lowest 8 psi, is incredibly tough. Like, I was impressed. You tap on it, it sounds like what I'm tapping on my desk right now. I mean,
Yeah. That's
I
awesome.
mean, there's not much play to it. It's pretty impressive.
Now, is there a difference in like the floor and the bottom material versus like with the side? Or is it kind of all the same sort of material? Like, is it hardened up top and softer on the outside?
No, you basically have the same PVC construction. So the tube material slash deck material and the floor material is a 30 by 1,000 denier PVC fabric, and then inside the drop stitch you have the actual drop stitch material, which is really just the threads that are glued to those top and bottom layers of fabric, and then your side tubes are the same.
Okay, cool.
So they look a little bit different, but no, it's really the same material, which is the same thing we make, whitewater rafts out of. It's really durable. That's another big hurdle we've had to come over as a inflatable boat manufacturer, is that perception of durability. And I think kind of depending on where you are geographically and your familiarity with inflatable boats, some regions were quicker to adopt than others, right? Brad, I know you and I were talking about our mutual friend Jeff Little and the video he was doing, trying to show us that how to get a fish hook to puncture the side tube on a rival. And Jeff's what, 6'3"? I mean, he's a giant man, and he had to, hold those pliers and put all of his weight behind it in order to puncture it. Like, it's whether you're hitting a fish hook or going over an oyster bed, it's really, really hard to rip, tear, puncture, slice this fabric. But if you do, the beauty of an inflatable versus, again, a rigid boat is that if you do manage to break this thing in some way, it's not hard to patch a boat. We're not talking about plastic welding, like cracking a plastic boat. It is, you're going to put a patch on there and have the exact same integrity that you had before. Where obviously we know when we start welding plastic, we're never going to have that same structural integrity.
That's a good point. And I think a lot of people don't realize that this rival has 3 chambers of air too. So if you do puncture one, you're still going to float.
You're not sinking.
Until you can get to the bank and then repair it on the bank.
Which is a great point. Is the fact that you can make the repair there.
On the river.
On the river.
Jeff Little did it in his video in like 57 seconds.
Yeah. And depending on what you've actually done and how much you need to really repair it. I mean, again, as a whitewater raft guide, I have done some numbers on some rafts over the years that required major raft repair situations on the side of rivers. But even so, we're talking about a matter of hours. And those are, big giant tears in the side of a raft tube. Almost anything that you would manage to do on something like this, you could slap a patch on and get you to a point where you are getting home, no problem. Throw some tear aid on there, and you can do the big major patch back in your garage when you get home. But tear aid's going to get you all the way. I mean, heck, I've done duct tape. I've fixed boats with crazy situations. So yeah, they're great. And there's the thing I love about it. Anymore, you look at all of these rigid boats, and I think Eric Jackson's kind of going after it with that Apex line.
Mm-hmm.
The decks are getting more and more cluttered, right? There's just
Yeah.
more and more stuff on there, and shapes and forms, and I love the clean lines of these inflatable sit-on tops. There's plenty of room to throw a crate behind you, a cooler, a well if you have one. The daisy chains you can rig for days, and then we put, what you're looking at right there on the screen right now is our rec model of the Star Rival. The Rival Fish is going to have the Yak Attack switch pad flexible surface mounts on there. So I think you get 5 on the Rival Fish and the Challenger. And so you can really rig that thing out as much as you can rig any other, inflatable watercraft. I've seen everything on there, depth finders and so on.
So the way I got mine set up now, I've been keeping it real simple on the river lately. So I'll bring 3 or 4 rods, and I'll have a book bag with just 2 tackle boxes in the back. And on those switch pads that you were mentioning a few minutes ago, I put Yak Attack rod stagers. They allow me to put my rods horizontal. Parallel with the boat, so you don't get them caught up in the trees hanging behind you and stuff like that. But man, that has, like, I've only had it out 3 times, but like, I feel like the frustration of like kayak fishing that I was doing this whole year has like completely gone away with this boat.
Simplicity, right? Just keeping it easy. And granted, I mean, with 5 deck mounts, you can mount rails on there. I mean, you can go as big as you want. I'm with you, probably because I'm not a very good angler. Simplicity is key for me. Like, if I have to start rigging lots and lots of stuff and making it a big to-do, I'm just not gonna go. Like, I'm not that good of a fisherman. I just don't, I'm just not going to go. If it's that big of a hassle, I'm not going to do it. I got 2 kids. Like, I don't have all day for this. And that's what I love about the Rival Fish, is that it keeps it simple for me. I don't have to worry about pulling a trailer. I don't have to worry about, everything. I can just throw it in the back of my truck, and I'm at the river in, 15 minutes. I'm right here in Lebanon, Ohio. I can get out to the South Lebanon, put in for the Little Miami in 7 minutes. So I can go at the spur of the moment, right? Just literally whip it in the back of my truck, throw 1 strap across the stern handle, and I'm on my way. Piece of cake. And
that's the thing with, I had a heavy kayak before, and I had like the bow mount and everything. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't even want to get it out today. And there'd be times where I wouldn't go fishing because I'm like, I just don't want to drag it.
Yeah, it's just a lot, And it's funny because I think that's where, like, that's why kayak fishing started to get exciting and started to become really popular, right? Was because we had these smaller boats. We were more mobile. We could do more with them. They were more versatile. And then suddenly, it's just another bass boat, right? Yeah. Like, we've got a motor on the back. We got one on the front. We've got all of the electronics. We've got all of these mounts. We got, and suddenly you're like, man, now I've got $9,000 sunk into this thing. I might as well just go buy a tracker. Like,
But I mean, that's just the influence of tournaments. When kayak fishing and the tournament scene blew up, it's always going to add to it, because
once you start making money.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but it's like you guys mentioned, though. It's a lot of people who tend to do tournaments start taking it more and more serious, so they want to have more and more rods rigged up because it's more efficient. The more cast you can make, I don't have to sit there and tie on baits. Yeah. And then you start venturing in from what we used to kind of start out doing, which is smaller bodies of water. And then these tournaments are showing up on Lake Fork or, all these big Lake Erie, you name it. It gets bigger and bigger. So those bigger kayaks have their place.
Sure.
But
the ocean,
me personally, I am not going to go throw a Hobie or even a Jackson big rig pedal drive out on the river. I have no desire to do that whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'd rather just get in a boat that I can paddle and is somewhat manageable, as far as weight wise. I mean, and I have a trailer and we have access points like that, but
Of course.
me and Brad love the further away you can get from the norm, the further away you can get from those boat launch river spots
Dams.
and stuff and the dams and stuff.
Yeah, and now you're an adventure angler. You're exactly the kind of person that we're talking about with these NRS products.
Yeah, and it's the reason a lot of us got into it, and you just kind of get involved in the other things. I mean, Brad was fishing tournaments. I mean, that's why he's been back and forth with so many different kayaks, because he's like, one minute he's like, yeah, I'm going to do the tournaments, and the next he's like, I don't really have a need for this. I'm going to downgrade again, and then he's like, oh, maybe I will, and then maybe I won't. So it's it's hard because you want to just have one for every scenario.
Yeah, and I was trying to cater to both, and I was having trouble doing that.
Yeah, it's very hard to do that. I mean, I have a Jackson Kilroy HD, and the boat's great in the river, and I love it, and I can fit my kids in it, and I'm like, this thing's awesome. And then I go to move it, and I'm like, yeah, but yet it's still 95 pounds. Like it's it's still a heavy kayak. Yeah.
They're massive, and that's I think and this is not the rival, the Challenger. These are not the first inflatable kayaks that NRS has made, right? And we've been selling inflatable watercraft on these same ideas for a very long time. Inflatable kayaks have been in this position for a long time, which is portability, durability, and storability, right? I mean, you want to see me at a put-in, and I will literally take that Challenger. If I have it on the roof rack of my truck, which is 8.5 feet high, give or take, I will just throw it off. I don't care. I can literally just throw it off, and it'll bounce in the parking lot, like into the bushes, whatever. It's fine. The boat's fine. And we used to live when I was in grad school, we lived in downtown Baltimore, Maryland, and lived in a tiny row home. And I probably had, I don't know, 15 boats in our basement, boats and boards in our basement. Like that would be completely impossible with rigid boats, right? My wife, the joke is always, how many kayaks do you really need, Blake? Just one more. Just one more. Usually applies to beers too, but I hope she's not listening. But yeah, I think that's what it is, right? You talk about being able to get this thing to the water without a roof rack, without a trailer, being able to store it, whether that's in your suburban house, your country estate, your condominium, in South Beach, wherever it might be, on your sailboat, your RV, van life is everything now, right? I just think it just, whether it's your primary watercraft or something else in your quiver, I think inflatables really do have a place on the river, on the water, for sure.
I think we've seen a giant explosion that happened due to COVID, and I love. That's the biggest positive I want to kind of you see. It's just the outdoor industry exploded because everything's shut down, and people are like, we don't want to sit around in the house, especially because when everything really started shutting down last year was right when the weather's breaking, and I think everybody found a new thing. For a lot of people were cool with sitting around in the house or just sitting on their back porch. But then they're like, man, I'm here all day. I don't go to work. I'm working from home. Yeah. I want to leave the house, but I can't go inside anywhere. So let's
go to a restaurant. Can't go to a movies. Can't take my kids to a museum or an amusement park or whatever. Like, let's go hiking.
Yeah. And the beauty of these inflatables is that you don't need a lot of things to get yourself out there. You just need the boat, the life jacket, and the paddle. And then you're on your way, and it doesn't matter if you're in a Ford Fiesta or a Ford F-150 or whatever. You know what I mean? That's my biggest thing I love about it, because, even a stand-up paddleboard, like a rigid one, a big plastic one, is it's not the easiest thing to move around, you know.
Mhm.
And they're still like 55 pounds too.
Right. And it's, it just opens so many doors to so many different types of people. It doesn't have to be fishing. This is
No, not at all.
yeah, it's a rec thing, and it's like get out on the water, people will be surprised at what they see in their backyards, and that's why I love the river so much. It's like, Brad and I live in a suburban area. Yeah, I mean, you're just south of us, and it's, how it is between Cincinnati and Dayton. There is mainly suburbs, and eventually I think Cincinnati and Dayton is going to be connected by suburbs. We're
For sure. I mean, we're really
super
close, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's not much in between.
If you go down 75, you're going through suburbs, and it doesn't. You might be able to go east or west a little bit, not very far, but they've always talked about, it connecting eventually, and it sort of has. But the beauty of it is that you can get that backcountry feel when you get out on the river, and
well, especially here, we have the scenic rivers. I mean, it's amazing how this is a cool spot. We just moved back, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Josh.
Oh, you're
but
fine.
I gotta tell you, people gave me a lot of grief, right? Like you're an outdoor rep, you're moving from the Chesapeake Bay to the middle of Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio. Like that's where you're gonna move to. And I'm like, do you understand how awesome the Little Miami and the Great Miami rivers are?
Yeah.
What amazing resources we have between these two cities. Like, if you want to get out on the water, it is very doable here. I like this place. Sorry. No. Please go on. I'm sorry.
It's the, you've seen the explosion of the stand-up paddleboard. Mm-hmm. You've seen the explosion of the kayak industry. You've, fishing or just recreation wise. And the inflatable game, I think, is just going to keep blowing up. I really think, and I think it's going to be
cool. That was the best pun of the night. Yeah. Thank you. I don't know if you meant to do it or not, but that was fantastic.
Totally didn't. But it's, but what I was sitting there thinking, because I've seen some of the different stuff that's come out, and it's going to be like what we saw with a rigid kayak, a regular plastic kayak. I think you're going to start seeing crazy cool designs. There's going to be a lot of innovation, and you're going to be eventually, I say probably in the next 5-6 years, it's going to be like almost like we see now. Like, how crazy do you want to go with it? Like, like, do you want just a little, like, stand up paddleboard, or are you looking at a Hobie style inflatable, and it'll be cool to see what comes out. I'm excited.
Hobie's already putting pedal drives in their inflatable kayaks, right? I mean, Hobie's doing some incredible stuff, right? Like, granted, I'm gonna sit here and ring the NRS bell as much as you guys will let me while I'm here, but it's not just us driving this train. There are a lot of manufacturers that are out there getting on board and pushing this thing, and we're the first to be excited about that because. Mm-hmm. As they say, a rising tide floats all ships. And so we love to see this inflatable tidal wave coming. It's great. We're thrilled. And and I think to your point too, Josh, like it's going to be kind of like rigid boats, where we got everything from blow molded, $300 options that people that are really, really serious about boating probably aren't going to want to get involved with, but that still make kayaking and paddling in water accessible to a group of people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to get to it, right? Yeah. Like, am I going to have a Sun Dolphin in my garage? Absolutely not. Am I thrilled to see them being sold in stores and seeing people getting on the water that wouldn't otherwise have done it, because there's no way they're going to buy $1,000 Hobie or Bonafide or whatever? Yeah, man, that's awesome. Like, I love to see that. I'm glad those other manufacturers are out there. I'm glad we're getting people on the water, because people in our position, I think that's where we are, right? Like, we're seeing one of the greatest resurgences in people going outside and recreating in the outdoors that we've seen. In our lifetimes, this is probably the biggest creator of outdoor enthusiasts that we've ever seen.
Mhm.
You know, it happened in the 60s and the 70s, and this is our new big resurgence, and I'm thrilled for it. And I think it is our responsibility as people that know what we're doing to not only encourage that, but make
Mhm.
sure that we're not doing anything that would shame somebody and keep them from getting on the water and coming and recreating with us, right? Like,
Right.
Mhm.
I think, you know, granted, again, like I said, please buy an NRS boat or a Star inflatable. That's going to be the way that you're going to be happiest in life, and you will never reach that pinnacle of happiness. But if you must settle for something slightly below that, just get out on the water and play. Take your kids out and play. You know,
Yeah.
that's what we can do. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing that comes out of this very trying time for our country and our planet.
Mhm.
Is that, you know, families are going to go outside and recreate again. And Josh, you have kids. Brad, you're on the way. I know it's just a matter of time, right?
I don't know.
But you know, I think that's one of the greatest joys in life is getting to share the outdoors with your family, and that's clearly the lemonade of the lemons we've all been served for the last 2 years. And
Yeah.
I for one am pretty thrilled about it.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
cool,
let's
man.
go into back to the NRS line, and I wanted to ask some questions like what is a consumer expected to receive in their box when they purchase a rival?
Yeah, great question. So you're gonna get the boat, and then like a high five. No. So what's in the box? You're gonna get the boat. You are gonna get the cool carry bag that it comes with. So a zippered suitcase bag. Brad, you've seen that.
Mhm.
Um, this thing is awesome because it is what's going to protect us when we're traveling. So again, one of my favorite things about these watercraft is my ability to travel with them. So I'm taking them on airplanes all the time, and I love it. Right? Normally, I would fly somewhere and have to rent a boat, borrow a boat, find a
Mhm.
friend, whatever. Now I can check this thing right through, and no added baggage fees and anything like that. So boat, pump, repair kit, all comes in the bag. I think you only get the one fin in the boat. Is that right, Brad? Just the
Yeah.
one skeg,
Yep.
which you can choose to use or not. And then we also, you know, you can buy other fins. We know we make the 1-inch shorty fins. We make a grass fin. We make some kind of
Hmm.
mid-range all water fins if you're getting in the shallower water. So like Great Miami River, you could probably use the skeg and not have any issues almost anywhere on the water. Little
Mhm.
Miami River, you have anything more than a 2-inch fin, especially this time of year, you know, you're gonna catch that thing here and there.
Mhm.
Um, and really all that's giving you is the ability to track through the water. So on the river, you know, narrower, smaller, skinny water rivers, not as big of an issue. When you start talking about, you know, paddling on open water, big lakes, stuff like that, you're going to want to have that tracking ability.
Mhm.
As awesome as it was for you to flick your wrist one time and spin the boat 180 degrees and make that cast, that's fantastic. Unless you're on a lake and every time you take a paddle stroke, you're going,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then then that skeg really comes in handy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got our seat. And fun fact, the seat is easy to come off. So if you're using it for a multi-day trip, it's also a great campfire seat to be using. So you don't have to bring an extra chair along.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually a pretty comfortable seat too.
It's a pretty comfortable seat. The first ones were not. Our prototypes were terrible. Oh my god! And I'm not a small man, and I broke a couple. But the new ones are much better, and
Yeah.
yeah, pretty comfortable seat.
Yep.
And it goes great with the NRS Chinook. The pillow sits right on
Yeah.
top of that, man. You know,
Yep.
Yeah.
that's
I
the
was thinking about that the other day actually, and I sat back in the seat and I'm like, oh yeah, that doesn't affect it at all. That's
no,
nice.
man. Shout out to the Chinook. That's what got NRS into the fishing game in the first place.
Yep.
Yep. I remember winning mine at the Little Miami River tournament they canceled. They ended up being a Cowan Lake Loveland tournament that Brad won, and I ended up winning my Chinook from the shop actually before I got on the team. I was one of the door prizes, and I was like, oh, I wanted a new one of these because I had the Stolquist Keeper, which I liked it.
Great
it was
PFD.
killing my back, man. Like I would be okay for about 2 or 3 hours, and if I went longer than that, from where it pushes you forward slightly, it drove me crazy. And since I've got the Chinook, I've never looked back, and I love that thing, man. I love the pockets. I love all the weird stuff that thing does that half people don't even know till when we had you guys on before and we talked about it, and it was a great episode. But
right, yeah, the built-in rod holder, that's always the biggest surprise of the day, right? I love the built-in rod holder. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I've stepped on a lot of rods. I'm big dumb animal, folks. Ask my wife. And I've broken them. I break them. Don't set it. You don't have to set them down ever again. You don't have to set it down ever again.
Yeah. I found it handy when I'm off the kayak waiting. I'll just put it right there.
Absolutely.
Start tying. It's nice.
Yeah, that's it, man. I definitely use that rod holder a lot more waiting and walking around on shore than I do. I mean, never using it in the boat when I'm sitting.
Right.
But yeah, it's when I get out and wade and walk. Because inevitably I'll get to the shore or whatever and then set it down and do whatever I'm doing. It's something stupid inevitably, and then come back and
yeah.
I have an idea. I have a little idea.
Oh, I'm gonna hear it.
You guys integrate a GoPro mount into it.
Ooh.
Something something that's rigid, that's plastic, you can snap onto, and then you don't have to worry about somebody having to wear the chest straps and stuff over your jacket.
Hey, Rex de Guzman, if you're listening, I want you to get that action cap mount rigged for the Chinook. Let's get on that, buddy. Work on that. That sounds like a great product for Rex to make. Fresh fish, baby. Love that guy. Yeah, dude, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think
I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could rig something up, but it'd be kind of cool that if it's integrated into it, sewn into it, where that it's there, it's good, it's not going to go anywhere.
I feel like something that would just clip onto the lash tab would be a good option for that, right? Like, I mean, do you guys rig a knife on your lash tab? I haven't rigged a knife on one of my lash tabs in years.
I did. I have an NRS Pilot, and it was really funny. Is the first time I put it handle side up, and I was like, "This is the most annoying thing I've ever realized," because that handle just hit me.
And it's sharp on that end, too. It's
dude, it's like a bottle opener, isn't it, on that end? And I'm like,
well, it has a glass punch on it. On the Pilot, it has a glass punch on the end. I remember I used to have that on my whitewater skirt, and my whitewater vest, and it was rubbing holes in my spray skirts, and that's when the Co-Pilot came out, because I was like, this knife is great, but it is untenable. It's like a machete. It's why is it so big? In the Co-Pilot solved all my problems, and now I'm a Nico guy personally. But
I flipped it upside down, and the best part was trying to get it off of that. I'm like, I had to get like a screwdriver out and have somebody else actually
pry and slide.
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest thing, but I was like, dude, as much as I wanted to complain about it, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, that's what I want, though. I want to know that
it's designed to not come off, right?
Yeah, it's not going to come off. It's secure. It's there. It's not sliding off. But I finally flipped it upside down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pictures like where I'm like, why is your head always tilted?
I used to love the guys that would rig their on the whitewater vest. They would rig their knife handle side up, like right here. So they were like drawing the knife like out of their vest, like past their neck. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, Excalibur. Like enjoy your river rescue with your sliced jugular.
Oh man.
Yeah, you can do people a lot of good with that. But no, I think something to go on the lash, that would be a good idea, maybe.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that, like, because it'd be a great feature in there, man. It's something that I've been like, do I want to do a chest mount or a hat mount, and I just can never figure it out. So I end up not doing neither one of them. So
Yeah.
Trust me, I mean, I'm glad I can't figure out a place to mount my GoPro, because doesn't anybody want to watch me just fumble with knots and these big dumb banana fingers trying to tie stuff? It's terrible. It's not good TV, guys. It's not good TV.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Oh.
Brad. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna go back to the bag.
Mhm.
I saw the bag. The first thing that popped in my head was AEP. And Josh knows what you might know what it is too. AEP is a recreational land with a bunch of ponds and stuff. I'm like,
Okay.
AEP.
that is AEP. That place would be perfect for this thing.
Mhm.
And I've never gone there because I've always had these heavy kayaks. I'm like, I'm not carrying that through the woods, but I got plans to go next year with this inflatable. So I just wanted
Absolutely.
to throw that in there.
I mean, that's it, right? It's again, that is the epitome of the adventure angler that we are really designing these products for. It's for the person that wants to take a boat into water that they would not otherwise be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, while we're talking about this, so I don't forget, we do have those Yak Attack switch pads on there. So listeners, I want to be very clear. Those switch pads will take accessories from a variety of manufacturers, right? Whether it's Yak Attack, Railblazer, Scotty, but those accessories will come with their own screws. Make sure you get onto NRS.com and look at the screw sizes you should be using. If you use too long of a screw into that switch pad, you will puncture the side tube below the switch pad, and it is really hard to fix. And it is not covered by warranty. So get on there and make sure you check out. We put it right on the NRS website. Yak Attack Mighty Mount Switch or Railblazer Starport HD. Use the 1/4 20 by 5/8 screws. If you're doing the Scotty side deck mounts, use 1/4 by 20 by 7/8 screws. Just go on there and look.
I'm
It'll
glad you
save
brought
you a
that
lot of
up.
grief later. It's a big mistake.
Yeah.
It's
Brad's
happened
like,
before.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, no, I heard it from Jeff Little on his video, so I knew before I even got the rival.
Mhm.
So I'm like, he said, make sure to use the smaller screws with the Yak Attack. So I was like, all right,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I think Yak Attack started putting both sets of screws in in their kits, which is super helpful. I think Scotty probably will too, and Railblazer will get on board because we're not the only inflatable manufacturer out there. But yeah, that is a big whoopsies.
And those Yak Attack switch pads, it's nothing more than a Mighty Mount gear track. That's all it is. It's like a 3 or 4 inch gear track. So any of your accessories that you can put in a gear track, you can use on it. The Anchor Wizard won't work just because the body's too big. So you might have to, put two switch pads and then a gear track on top of those. But
and the great thing about that boat, I mean, yes, it comes with 5 switch pads, but there is nothing in the world preventing you from gluing 5 more on.
Yeah. And it looks easy too.
It's super easy. I mean, again, we've been gluing stuff on the rafts for a long time. It is not hard to put a switch pad onto one of those tubes. So same thing. And if you like the cleaner lines of, say, the Rival or another inflatable kayak that's not the Rival fish, and you only want 1 or 2 of those switch pads, you can do that too. That's a great product.
Here's a good one. What glue do you recommend for gluing those?
I think on that, because it's PVC, your best option is using Stay Bond. That's going to give you, that's like a 2-part glue that will give you the best bond between, because basically you're gluing rubber onto PVC. So Stay Bond's really good for those like different materials gluing together.
Okay.
And a lot of that stuff you can find on NRS.com as well. Pick up the phone, call our repairs team, call our call center. You will always get somebody on the phone if you call during business hours. We don't have an automated phone tree system. Our folks there would love to talk you through that. These guys and gals just live and breathe boating all day long, and they love talking this stuff. So give them a call. Everybody, when I was in a young salesperson at NRS, the vast majority of our business was done over the phone. You know, we were still a catalog company, and the website was a very, very small part of our business. I can't tell you, I was in my early 20s. I remember laying under my desk on like a Saturday morning, like mega hungover, just with a headset on and like slapping my phone on my chest, like, thank you for calling NRS. How can I help you? And then talking about boating with people for hours. But no, these guys and gals are fantastic, and would be happy to walk you through some of that stuff. But yeah, stay on is the answer.
Sweet.
Is there a gauge, a PSI gauge on the pump so they're aware?
That's right. There is one on the pump. It is one of those pieces that likes to get broken before the actual functionality of the pump, but we can replace it for you. But yeah, there is a pressure gauge on there that works great. Again, you're going to do about 8 to 10 psi on that floor and 3 on the side tubes. Same thing if you're doing the pike. The pike is a similar construction. It's more of a traditional inflatable kayak style. So your tubes go all the way around and the floor sits a little lower. But same thing on that one.
Cool.
So there's I noticed, I haven't played with it yet, but there's 2 functions on the pump. Can you go through that?
Yeah, so it's a 2-stage pump, and you've got a big high volume plunger that's in there, and so that's great for your side tubes. That'll get your side tubes up to 2.5, 3 psi, and what would you say, Brad? 45 seconds per tube, give or take.
Yeah, if that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's fast, right? It pushes a lot of air. But when you're doing that that floor, you know, you're trying to get to 8 psi, and so up to about 3-4 psi, that big plunger is good. But after that, it starts getting really hard to push that big plunger down. So you push the button on, and it goes to the high pressure. So you're pushing less air, but it's a smaller diameter. So you get to that, you know, 4 to 8, 10 psi relatively quickly. So that's it, right? It's your high volume versus high pressure settings on that pump.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even use it the first time I pumped it up, and I saw it after the fact. I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's why it's called the Super 2 pump.
Yeah.
So it has 2 stages.
Yeah, that's cool. Well,
yeah, I'm sorry, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say we are winding down, but I was gonna let you say whatever you're gonna say real quick.
Oh, yeah, I think if you're using that pump, it takes probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes to inflate that boat. So again, you're still, even if you're taking, you know, it takes a little bit of extra time when you get to the water. I still think compared to dropping in with the trailer, it's a relatively quick process getting that boat inflated.
And that's one of the myths that people have with inflatables too. They think you have to deflate every time you're like going somewhere. I haven't had to deflate yet. I'll throw it in the back of my truck and strap it in. You know, I'll get on the water. I'm on the water within 5 minutes.
No, I mean, yeah, if you have a small car, then you're probably going to have to deflate it and roll it up. But if you've got a pickup truck or an SUV, you can throw it right in the back. It's easy to throw onto factory roof racks even. You don't need to do any kind of additional stuff on there. I will say, if you're storing it inflated, you would do well if you live in extreme climates to not leave that like out in the sun and the heat and all that kind of stuff. UV degradation is a thing, but also, you know, those boats are held together with adhesives. And anybody who's put their feet up by a campfire time or two will have had the soles of their shoes melt off from getting too hot. So if you're in those southern climates and it's, you know, reaching 100 degrees in the summertime and your boat's sitting out in the backyard, don't be surprised if you leave it inflated at full pressure and you start to see some seam failure on that thing.
Yeah.
You know, that can absolutely happen. So, you know, try to keep it in the shade, keep it in cooler storage if you can. Probably won't happen too much here, but
right. Is it better to deflate it slightly? Like
I do like to deflate it a little bit. You know, okay. I think on that floor at 8 to 10 psi, it's probably fine, right? Like a sup that you're keeping at 15 to 20 psi, I definitely bleed some air when I'm storing it. I would say on these, the side tubes are more important to deflate and bleed than the floor. So, and again, that's one of those things where that's the easiest part to inflate. It just takes a few pumps with that big high volume side to get those back up. So if it were me, and I'm keeping it relatively inflated, I'm gonna drop those side tubes down, a lot of the way. You don't have to drain them all the way, but when things are sitting out in the sun and it's hot, that air is getting hotter and hotter inside that chamber. It's going to continue to expand. So if you're at max and then you leave it out in the sun, that's the recipe for a blown seam.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. So Josh, if you didn't have anything else, I was gonna kind of wind it down.
Yeah.
Okay. I just quickly wanted to go over like some of the myths behind inflatables, because people worried about durability and dragging and hitting a rock and stuff like that. Is there anything you could offer in advice for that?
We have been running inflatable watercraft down some of the most challenging whitewater rivers in the world for going on 70 years now, since people started taking World War II surplus life rafts down the Grand Canyon and Western rivers. There is very little that you can throw at one of these boats that's really going to beat it up. But if you get to the point where if you do manage to puncture this thing on a sharp rock or stick or whatever, you're not paying attention or whatever, you can fix them really, really easily. It comes with a patch kit. We sell extra materials and glues. We have all kinds of step-by-step tutorials. There are companies that specialize in inflatable watercraft repair. But yeah, if you do manage to hurt it, you can fix it relatively easily. But it takes a lot. It takes, I've seen rafts, wrapped around rocks in whitewater rivers just getting slammed. And then you finally get that thing off of there, and all I can do is pump it back up again. So yeah, it takes quite a bit.
How do you feel about dragging them across the ground to get to water?
Generally speaking, I'm going to advise against that. That's okay. You wouldn't drag your backpack. You wouldn't drag anything else that you own. Honestly, you shouldn't drag your plastic boat either.
No. I can't stand it when people are like, "Oh, these kayak companies need to reinforce the bottom because I drag my kayak up and down the boat ramp," and it's like, "Hey, what?" Like, I did that one time, and it was the biggest mistake I ever made, and realized, like, literally on the first time, I almost dragged a hole in it. Yeah. And it wasn't by choice. I was like frustrated, and I was like, I'm leaving. And then I didn't even think about it, and I ran up with it behind me and realized, man, I couldn't have dragged it across a worse surface, which was a ramp. And you know how a lot of times
they're all like corrugated.
They're corrugated, and it's rougher because they want you to have traction on it. And I see people do it all the time. They drag it, and they're like, I don't understand why I have a hole in it. I'm like, I have perfect understanding why you have a hole in it.
Yeah. And you can probably get away with it a lot of times. And again, it's a lot lighter. So it'll probably hold up to it better than a heavier boat would. But yeah, I would not recommend dragging it. There are a multitude of boat carts available to you if you are paddling solo and you can't figure out a way to carry that 31-pound boat all by yourself. There are a lot of options available to you. They're called boat carts, and you should invest in one. It's definitely worth it's a good insurance policy.
Especially if your inflatable and ends up looking like Jeff Little's, then you're definitely going to need a boat cart.
Yeah. When you have all of those things on there, you're going to need a boat cart for sure. Jeff's boat does not weigh 31 pounds.
Well, even with all that stuff, it probably only weighs 60.
Yeah. And Lord knows Jeff can pick it up because he, moonlights as the Hulk or whatever he does. But his hair is so good right now too. It's so. I've been trying to grow mine out to kind of emulate him, but he's so handsome.
That's funny.
But he's probably super uncomfortable if he listens to this right now.
I don't think he listens to this. It's all good.
I don't think he gets uncomfortable, frankly. But Yeah, boat carts. And yeah, like you said, you can get them heavy. But no, I would not recommend dragging them.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. It's been fun.
Gosh, guys, thank you so much for having me. I know
Let's
I
get out and
probably
fish.
hey, we're local. Let's do this thing. You guys
Heck
can. I am always good for your ego. I assure you. I'm a good fishing partner in that way.
I need to hit the Little Miami more. It's been a couple of years, I think. So
Come on down, man. There's smallies, and a few other things in there. It's kind of boring right now. Let's wait till the spring when there's some actually water in it.
yeah, it's
Well,
pretty
it got some water moving in it. It didn't go up very high, but
Yeah, it got muddy last
Yeah.
week. Yeah,
real muddy. I was actually up in John Bryan State Park.
I saw that.
That's what we're doing. All right, we're taking inflatables and we're going up to the gorge, and we're
Coach Clifton
starting
Gorge and
where we're not
inflatables.
supposed to be.
That sounds fun.
Hey, ODNR. I know you're not listening, but my policy has always been with you guys. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission. Absolutely.
Testing.
That's funny, man. Well,
you got NRS for the ticket.
Yeah. You want to let anybody know where they can follow you and all that good stuff?
Oh yeah, they don't want to follow me, but if you are so inclined, I am Bling Blake on Twitter and Bling_Blake on Instagram, and I'd love to see you. Come on, hang out. I mostly talk about comic books and movies though, so it's not a lot of fishing stuff.
It's all good. We all got our hobbies.
Check out NRS, guys. It's not just life jackets. They make so much stuff. I mean, you guys make bilge pumps, life jackets, boats, knives. Like it just the list goes on and on. Dry suits,
threads like these.
Yes. I mean, one of me and Brad's favorite shirts is the Varial, right?
Yep. I need that shirt you're wearing too. The one you wore the other day too.
Yeah, man. Awesome. It's the same one. It's just different color. It's like I only have I like seasonal uniforms.
We're gonna shop at Blake's.
That's right. Come on over. I got samples. You guys come on down. You guys will fit them. Yeah, NRS.com. We'd love to see you guys there. Come check it out and say what's up.
All right. Brad, anything else, bud?
Nope. Good episode, man.
Yeah. Thank you again, Blake. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you next week, and take care.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com.